So I don't know about you, but I've never met a young child who's afraid to ask a question. In fact, most of the times, it's multiple questions in rapid fire sequence, faster and faster. Now, as a father of 4, I know this all too well. Imagine me standing in my kitchen one morning in desperate need of a cup of coffee, something particularly strong. I go to grind the beans, and my spunky 3-year-old yells, "I want to push the button." She runs over, jumps up, starts in with the questions. "Why do you grind the beans? Why do you use hot water? Why do you drink so much coffee?" All I needed was my cup of coffee. So in a typical, under-caffeinated, fatherly way, I said, "Just push the button, please." Now I got my cup of coffee that morning. But that insatiable curiosity of a kid, it's absolutely amazing and absolutely exhausting. That was back in the spring of 2020. The world changed that year. I suddenly found myself making coffee with my curious kids every morning. I was used to working with clients, brainstorming on whiteboards and the walls of conference rooms, creating a mosaic of collaboration. Now I was stuck, suddenly, behind the screens, buried in dashboards and apps that claimed to be able to tell me every answer I needed. But I was missing something. I felt a gap. I was missing that intuition, knowing when and how to ask a question, creating the space to achieve something special, not just good enough. So, 18 months later, while watching an episode of Ted Lasso, he quotes Walt Whitman, "Be curious, not judgmental." And I knew when I heard it, that was it. My wife was a little confused as to what it was, but we later figured out it was the start of a journey, something that I embarked on to understand the power of curiosity in the midst of instantaneous answers. But a journey it was, just like you started your journey many years ago as a child, with your purpose in life to understand the world around you. You're naturally curious. Asking questions, that's what you're supposed to do. Yet somehow along the way, I allowed efficiency to gain priority over curiosity. So I started on a journey, trying to bridge that gap. I was trying to understand what I was missing. I went on curiosity walks with clients and colleagues and friends, anybody that would walk with me, mostly virtual at the time, but we'd get on a phone call and we'd ask each other questions. But what I realized was it wasn't just about asking the questions, it was creating the space to allow them to ask questions as well as listen to the answers, letting them be curious. So when I went through this, I started digging. I needed to understand why. Well, if we look at the 1980s, and largely attributed, but not exclusively to Russell Ackoff, the DIKW pyramid helps us understand this exact issue. Data at the bottom, the raw bits, 8, a cup, beans, hot water, grinding beans. Information, the next level up, may give you instructions or an ingredients list. While knowledge, that's you knowing how to make the greatest cup of coffee. Wisdom, on the other hand, is you knowing to order 3 pounds of coffee every month to make sure I have plenty of coffee and we both have a great day. You see, it took curiosity. There's an inherent gap between information and knowledge and wisdom. That gap is bridged by curiosity. That gap is what gets you from a lot of data instantaneously to something that you can put into action. So we leveraged curiosity to bridge that gap. And then I figured out along the way 3 techniques that helped me prioritize curiosity and avoid the allure of instantaneous answers. First, we need to start with why. Whether or not we need to change something, troubleshoot something, innovate something, we need to understand the real why, the real root of the problem or the challenge, not the surface level symptoms. Toyota popularized this in the 1970s, and they said 5 whys. Now I, along the way, with time being precious, found 3 whys could help me understand or appreciate Did I have a lot of wisdom or knowledge, or could I go all the way to wisdom? Why are we in this position? Why do we need to change? Why do we do it the way we do it? Those three whys help me evaluate and know whether I have enough information, or do I need to go back to data? Do I need to gain additional perspectives to make sure that I understand it? How can I be curious about understanding the root issue as opposed to the surface level symptoms? Next, we need to pause. That's some good coffee. Pausing, I had to realize, while I don't always need to pause, and it may not be for me, pausing always benefits me. Because what I realized was it may take a moment for somebody else to collect their thoughts, process that information, and add their own curiosity to it. And if I was too quick to jump to a solution, I may not allow that voice to be heard. So sometimes that is sending information in advance of a meeting and in advance of a conversation so they have an opportunity to digest it. Sometimes it's taking that sip of coffee in the middle of a meeting just to give a little bit of airspace. Imagine you're on a virtual meeting. Somebody may not be on camera, so they need to click off camera or click on camera. They need to unmute and come and participate. If you're too quick to move to the next agenda item, that best idea might not have been heard. Recently, I was on a brainstorming call with a group of employees, and we had that exact instance. We gave just enough airtime for them to appreciate the opportunity, and that was actually the best brainstorming session or portion of it we had all day. A sip of coffee can help you pause, or tea, can help you pause and create that space. Because once you've understood the why, once you've paused, you need to lead with yes and. We have to stop starting with why something is not going to work. But that's not going to work because of this. We can't do it that way because of these things, which all might be valid. But instead, if we lead with yes and, we build a solution. I originally learned this technique from a gentleman while sitting around a campfire trying to troubleshoot a problem that an industry colleague had. He challenged us to lead every response with yes and. And in doing so, we went from identifying problems to creating solutions. Yes, and I could go faster if I had more resources. Yes, and I can prioritize that if you deprioritize this. Yes, I can make you a cup of coffee so long as I have beans. This opportunity to lead with yes and creates a different dynamic that when you give others the opportunity to participate, you get that participation and you build up with them rather than against them. Appreciating all three of these together now is awesome. But I can tell you, while I can make you a perfect cup of coffee, my journey was farther than perfect. I made my fair share of mistakes along the way. So instead, focus on your intention. Focus on what you can do today to use any of these techniques to lead with curiosity, rather than allowing the allure of those instantaneous answers to prioritize your day. We need leaders who create curious environments with themselves and their team so that we can achieve extraordinary results, not just good enough. So the opportunity is with you. The next time you're enjoying your favorite cup of coffee or tea, ask yourself, how could your inner light childness of curiosity come out and play today? Thank you.